Hello there and welcome to the channel. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. I'd like to give a big shout out to all of my regulars. Thank you so much for all of your lovely comments and your likes and your hypes. I really appreciate it. And I'd also like to say hello to my new subscribers. Welcome to the channel. I hope you really enjoy the content. And if you're new here, I hope you really enjoy stopping by today. Now, we're coming to the end of my time away. I will be back in late May, but I have a video for you today that I recorded back in March, and it is some paint swatch pockets with journaling cards. Now, I have quite a lot of paint swatches in my stash because I used to be a designer, and I used to specify lots of different brands of paint for different projects, and so I have quite a big collection of paint swatches. So when I come up with something to do with them, I really enjoy doing it. So you can see here that I've created some vintage inspired paint swatches, and you can see that it's still showing the paint swatch, and I've put on a digital of a lady here, and you can see that it's the Australian Woman's Weekly. And when you pull it out of the pocket, it's the same image. And it's a journaling card, but you can see that she slides in there. So I basically printed out the image twice and positioned it in a way so that it became a pocket. So that's what we're making today. And there's room on the back to either glue this in or glue it in as a tuck spot or a pocket, or you could just use it as a journaling card. So they're a little bit fun. I've got 3 made, so you've seen one of them. I've got another 2 to show you at the end, and we're going to make 1 on camera. So there's 4 altogether. So I'll get set up and I'll show you how I make them. Okay, so let's have a little look at what our resources are. So the first thing that you need is 2 paint swatches. Now I'm using Taubman's from here in Australia, and the colour doesn't really matter. The colour just needs to work with whatever your image is. So I have got 2 of the exact same paint swatch, but what you do need to have is a paint swatch that you can tear off one of the segments. So you can see that I'm going to take this top segment off and stitch it onto this one so that it becomes a pocket. So let's do that first. You can see I'll tear that portion off, and I'm going to use this in part of my composition. But now I'm going to use this as my pocket. So this will become where my pocket goes. So you do need 2 paint swatches the same. The next thing I have are some images. Now I looked for some images that had fairly solid kind of blocks of colour in the background that I could then pick a colour out of my paint swatch that kind of went with it. So you can see here that I have a lady and a man. They're on a kind of like a boogie board or a body board, and they're kind of surfing. Now the blue in the background is not quite the same, but I didn't want to go and get more paint swatches to get the exact colour because I've got so many that I need to use. So I'm fine with it being in a bluey kind of hue, just so that it works. Now you can see that I have fussy cut out the exact image. Now what I did was I purchased some digitals, and these ones are of vintage, or some of them might be antique actually, no, vintage magazine covers, and it's the Australian Woman's Weekly. Now these ones are from TS Graphics Design Shop, and I will leave their Etsy store link below, but they have lots of different vintage styled magazine covers, not just ones from Australia, ones from all around the world. And I went looking for something that had a vintage vibe to it, but also that the size of it was perfect in relation to the size of my paint swatch. So I wanted it to be slightly smaller than my paint swatch, but I wanted the image dominant enough so that I could put a cutout on the front. So have a little look at their Etsy store and you might find some vintage postcards or some vintage magazine covers or something like that yourself that you like. But I liked the Australian ones because I'm Australian. So what I did was I printed out 2 of the exact same image and then I glued this one to some cardstock and then I fussy cut it out. You can see it was just white cardstock that I've fussy cut out the people. So once you've done that, it comes together fairly quickly. So I have some other bits and pieces here. I have some beach themed rub-ons. I've got a banner. I have a little welcome aboard safety ring. I have a seagull. And I have a sentiment that says, "It's a beach day." So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paint swatches to the sewing machine and I'm actually going to stitch around the edge of them. And I want to stitch quite close to the edge. The other thing that I just remembered is that I wanted to glue a little bit of my paint swatch on the bottom so that I can stitch over the top of it. So I've just torn a little piece of my paint swatch off that I took off the top and created a little bit of a wave. Now I've only glued it on the sides. I'll show you that it's open at the bottom. You see how it's open at the bottom, it's just glued at the sides. And that's so that after I sew my pocket, I can position my 2 people into the wave. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap that down and I'm going to get a piece of washi tape and just stick that pocket together so that it stays in the right spot for me to sew around it. Okay, so now I'm going to go around the edge and do a straight stitch and sew my pocket together. I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so there we go. I've sewn all the way around the edge and this will still be open here so that I can tuck in my people. And let's peel off the washi tape and we'll see that the pocket works. Now I managed to sort out my tension on my machine. So the last time I used it, the tension on the back was all wrong. So I had a bit of a play with it and it's better, but it's not perfect. So now you can see that our pocket holds our journaling card and our people here, I can align them and I can tuck them into the tuck spot and they can be surfing the wave and be positioned so they align with the double. So there we go. You can see how it's now starting to come together. So now it's just a case of compiling the composition. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put our rub-ons on our journaling card and I've got some bunting. So let's rub that onto our journaling card. And I got this out of my stash. It's a collection that I got here in Australia from Spotlight quite a few years ago. I'm not sure of the name of it, but it is a sea-themed collection. And it's not very good quality, to be honest. It's not working overly well, but it needs to be used. Okay, we got it on. Now I have a seagull. So let's put the seagull on. Have him flying over here, over the man's shoulder. There we go. You can see we've got some flags and a seagull. So now I'm just going to ink up our people here. hit the edge of them with a little bit of vintage photo, and that's because there's a few little spots that are showing the white cardstock on the back. And I'm going to actually slide that in first, and once I get it in position, I'll put some glue onto it, but I need to get it lined up perfectly first. So let's tuck our journaling card in the back, get it in the right spot. You can see that it needs to be aligned correctly with the right angle. Then I'm going to use some art glitter glue and glue that on. And I'm not going to glue their heads or her hand. I'm just going to glue the bodies. And it's not going to get moved very much. So it's not going to need a lot of glue because the pocket's going to hold it in place fairly well. Now the other thing that I've got here is I've got a welcome aboard, and I'm going to just glue this very carefully on the back of her hand and his head so that it just supports her fingers, because potentially her fingers could get damaged. So I'll put a little bit of glue on the bottom of this and I'll slide that in. I don't want her fingers and the heads to get damaged over time. So I'm just strategically placing them onto the life-saving ring. And now I'll put the tiniest little bit of glue under her hand and her head and under his head, just so that it means that that's glued on. So you can see that now the hand and the heads are supported, but when we lift this out, it's not attached to the journaling card. And then we'll just trim up our little dangly threads, and I can now glue this to a backing card that I've cut 3mm once again, or 1/8 of an inch bigger than my paint swatch. So let's just glue our paint swatch on, and I'm putting this on so that it hides some of that stitching. To be honest, the stitching's a little bit bumpy and the tension's still not perfect. I'm sorry if you can hear some bumping going on in the background. Sounds like my daughter might be mopping the floor upstairs. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to just take the card out and I'm going to put a few white splatters onto it. So not too many, mostly around the water area, as if the water is splashing up. And I'll dry those off and clean up, and we'll come back and put the sentiment on. Let's put our sentiment on. I've got a little sentiment that says, "It's a beach day." So there we go. We've got a beach day, and the white splatters look good because it looks like it's the foam splashing up from the waves. And this little line here from my torn paint swatch looks good. All right, let's pop that in, and we'll bring out the other ones that I can show you as well. So I showed you this lady with a bus ticket, and she's catching the bus to the beach, and it says, "You can never have too much happy." And she looks super happy about going to the beach for the day, or out on a picnic or something, doesn't she? So that one's lovely. And then we have this one. She looks like a Southern Belle, doesn't she? She's even got a yellow hat and dress like Belle off of Beauty and the Beast. My granddaughter loves all of these sorts of princess clothes. And you can see that once again I have grounded the image with a little bit of washi And I've put some washi in the background to carry over the flower theme. And this is our front of our Australian Woman's Weekly. This is October 4, 1941, that edition. So that's that one. And it says, "It's the little things that make life big." And I've just put a little jumpering embellishment on it as well. Let me see if I can see the dates on this one. December 31st, 1938. This one, the front of that. Let me see if I can see the date of this. December 22, 1937. And our last one is April 19, 1937. And this is of a lady who is at the polo. You can see the polo is going on in the background. And she looks like she might own the polo team, or she might be quite wealthy. And she's fully engaged in the game. And it says, "Well, that's a level of incompetent I've not seen before." So she's commenting about the polo game, how her team mustn't be going very well. She doesn't look very happy, actually, does she? She might be losing some money. And you can see that once again I've used the washi to ground it, and I've actually layered up a little bit of washi on that one. So there we go. There's our paint swatch pockets with journaling cards in them. And they're a bit of fun, aren't they? And they were enjoyable to make. And it used up some of my paint swatches, it used 8 paint swatches, which is fabulous. And I also got to play with a few new digitals. And I love having Australia themed projects. So I really hope you enjoyed the project today. If you did, give the video a like and think about subscribing to the channel. And once again, thank you so much for all of your lovely comments and your likes and hypes. I really appreciate it. So this video will be going live in May, and I will be starting to wind up my holiday. So I really hope you have enjoyed the videos that I've put together for you while I've been gone. And I will be seeing you very soon, actually, hopefully with a lovely big bounty of really interesting thrifted items from Europe. So I look forward to seeing you all very soon. Have a great week, everybody, and I hope you find some time to make something fun and new. Maybe some paint swatch pockets with journaling cards. All right, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye for now.